So, I have wanted to make another video for a good while. How do I disable those pop-ups? Let's see. Right. So, I'm temporarily playing on a different device, and I still want to talk about some things, and I haven't really had the opportunity in the past few weeks, and I've wanted to make this video for maybe a good 3 weeks, and I haven't played in a good 3 weeks as well, because life is complicated sometimes. So I've wanted to talk about a lot of things for a good while, and I haven't really had the opportunity to talk about a lot of things, but I have gotten full diamond armor. It took me like 3 hours. I did it pretty quickly. It was pretty easy, like I said, I think. But I was gambling on getting enchantments. And that's part of the things I want to talk about today. I really want to talk about how I think our impressions, and specifically, I think how we perceive chances. Because I was writing again, because writing, I think it's writing and recording videos are both good ways I like to use to keep track of certain thoughts, and I think it's a good reason, not necessarily. It's one of the things that I think were almost a motivating factor in making a YouTube video, or whatever platform this goes on. Definitely YouTube, but you can never be sure, I think. But I was writing about how we perceive chances and probability, because I think we as humans have a horrible perception of chance and probability. I don't think we are good at perceiving probability and chances at all. So recently I wrote about how we are so biased towards trying to rationalize probability and chances, and that luck is simply a construct of how we decide to perceive things, if that makes sense. I don't think it does. I think I said that wrong. But luck is, I don't believe that luck exists in the typical way, which sounds crazy, but I think it's simply a way we describe probability rather than an objective thing that exists. Like, luck is an analogy to probability. You can't change it, I don't think. I don't feel. I mean, that's what I believe. I don't feel like you can change it, because it's simply a representation of our interpretation of probability. But in relation to luck, I think there are a lot of logical fallacies and biases. Why is the villager? You're ruining my point. I want to use how I'm rolling for different enchantments to describe probability. I think this villager is connected to the workstation. Hopefully. They are very hard to deal with. But I think that we have such a great number of logical fallacies which interfere with our perception of probability. And I think one of those logical fallacies, which I personally think is important, or most represented, is how we tend to merge probabilities that we believe are less significant or different to what we, not necessarily different, that's the wrong word, less significant, and also not focused on, unfocused on. I think it's different from our perception of what is significant as a probability factor. I don't think that's phrased right, but take for example, to explain this specific fallacy. Also, it's 4 a.m. I don't think I'm talking correctly. It's nearly 5 a.m. It's so early in the is it morning or is it night? How do we define whether or not the early hours are actually late night or actually early morning? I don't know. Is 5 a.m. super early or is it super late? I don't know. But either way, why is it not placing? That is so odd. But either way, it's nearly 5 a.m. and I'm deciding to make a YouTube video on the 1st of January in 2026 at 5 a.m. This is a great use of free will and a great choice. I don't make good choices, but I think one of the fallacies or mishaps in our perception of chance is how we tend to merge other probabilities. So I think a good like example of this is, let's say there are 100 different outcomes or possibilities, all at a 1% chance of happening. No matter which of those 1% chances you get, there would have been a 99% chance you didn't get that probability, and hence perceptually you would find that to be rare, because you would think it's almost appalling at how the fact there would have been a 99% chance you didn't get that outcome. But I think the fallacy occurs there that all the other outcomes are also at 1% chance. So no matter what you get, your perception will always be that there is a 99% chance of what you got not happening, almost giving you the illusion of significance and luck. I don't think I said that right, but I think we tend to merge other probabilities that aren't the one we believe is significant or focused on, to use those words again. So even if it's like a 10% chance that you get something, let's say it's a 10% chance to get something you want, but it's a 1% chance, there are like 21% chances to get something you don't want, and then there's like a bunch of other percent chances to fill out all of the remaining percentages. Despite the fact that the 1% chance is more rare, we would still perceive it as less lucky because it's not something we would desire nor focus on, and hence we merge it together with the other remaining percentages to almost get this effect that I don't really know what to describe as, besides like a what did I write? I don't know what I wrote. I don't think reading what I wrote really helps. I'm not reading what I wrote because it. Oh no. That's not good, is it? I think I would like to be a better writer and a better speaker, but I don't think I'm really good at either of those things. So, but I think we like I said, I think we merge the less relevant outcomes, despite the fact that the raw percentages or chances might be different. And I feel like I'm not describing why it's a logical fallacy in the right way, but I think it gives the illusion of significance and almost makes us believe that things were more lucky, so to speak. Do I have soul touch? I don't know. How did I check my villagers? I mean, not how. Wait. I should have, like, kept a list, probably. I'm gonna keep the silk touch either way. It's cheap enough. Where's the villager? This is great organization. But for example, I think of like I think it's called like the fine-tuned universe theory, where like people use it to prove that there has been a higher power to like finely tune the universe into the perfect set of scenarios for us to exist and for life to form and for everything else, because we argue that if anything was changed, like the mass of an electron was changed, we wouldn't be alive. But I think that's where like I would consider that to be a logical fallacy under what I just described of how we merge probabilities, because we really don't know how many other probabilities there would have been, and we really don't know how many other of those possibilities would have had life, and we really don't know if the set of conditions that allowed our universe to have life were really so special. And I think it falls under the logical fallacy I described of us sort of like congregating, I don't know how to say, sort of like conjoining all of the other less relevant possibilities that we are either not aware of or think differently of. I don't think this is a good example, but I still really want to describe the fallacy I'm thinking of how we so often I think misinterpret how probability works, because I spent a lot of time writing about probability and like how we calculate probabilities and whatever else. I didn't spend a lot of time writing. I think I just spent a lot of time thinking about it, because I don't think I'm smart enough to write about it, but I am. Never mind. But I think we simply aren't good at interpreting probability and a diverse portfolio of probabilities. And I really don't know how to describe what I'm thinking of. I really do want to talk about this later on. There's actually a lot of things I want to talk about that I've talked about before, more in depth, because I don't think I'm really describing anything correctly. Like I don't think I've ever talked about it, but I really want to talk about things relating to like social constructs, to like I don't know, sex or like gender or other aspects of human biology or similar things. But I don't know how much I can actually talk about it, because I don't think I have not necessarily the capabilities. I think that's a good price. I don't think I'll ever use projectile protection, but I would still like to have it just in case. I think I've stuttered way too much in this video, but I think my almost like willingness to rant on about things has been better. And also, I don't think it being 5 a.m. really helps my brain work properly, but the time to talk about. I don't know if I can afford to talk about a lot of things, honestly. I was also writing about impressions recently, like our human perceptions of others, but on a very like like, what's the opposite of in-depth? Like on a very like shallow and impulsive way. I was writing about how our impressions work, because I think our impressions are a facade of reality. I think that we simply have impressions to be fillers to some extent. I don't think, no, that I don't think I said that right. But I think our impressions aren't very accurate to reality. They are a facade of reality. And they are very useful, but I do think we should try to rely on more factual pieces of input or perception when we can. But I think we tend to trust our impressions so much because they are our impressions, and we wouldn't manipulate ourselves, at least not directly. So I think we tend to trust our impressions so much. So, how do I say this? Impressions are a facade of reality, but a facade of reality is still an observation of reality. Our impressions can be so manipulated to some extent, where we can almost... Why is it... When have I traded? What is going on? I don't know what is going on. Villagers are confusing. Villagers are just frustrating and confusing. But I think our constructed impressions of people, I think, tend to rely on our own perceptions and confidence, which means we tend to trust them so much more. Like, if we believe someone is a racist, for example, no matter what else they prove, I still think we will perceive them as a racist if our impression of them is strong enough, because we will be biased in some ways towards them being racist. I don't think I phrased that right, but my point is that our impressions are so manipulatable, and once they're manipulated to a certain extent, I think we trust them so much because we trust ourselves. Impressions are like an extension of ourselves. They reflect our own perceptions, our own almost like beliefs, our own... What am I doing? They're like... I don't know how to describe it, but our impressions are such a... I think they... I'm stuttering again. Our impressions are so trustable inherently because they are part of ourselves. Like, what am I doing? What am I don't know what I'm trying to say, honestly, but what did I... I don't know. But I was supposed to be doing something more useful today, but our impressions, I think, sincerely are just... I don't know what I thought about impressions a while back, because it's been a while. I don't think I've been keeping track of things very well, especially with how things have gone in life. But that's another thing for another day. I think our impressions are so... they're so based on what we... it's susceptible to a lot of anchoring bias. So essentially, what we first interpret as a characteristic or quality of a person is what we will continuously be biased to perceiving with future evidence. So like confirmation bias to some extent, but relying on a form of anchoring bias. So if I perceive someone as being like racist or something, anytime they do something that's mildly racist in the future, I'll be more biased towards believing that that's true and real than if they did something good, because that would contradict my first impressions, which is what I anchored my opinion on as. Yes, that makes sense, I think. And I think that happens the opposite way, but like it happens less. It happens differently when it comes to something good. I think we're more biased towards bad things than good things. So if if I've done something good, for example, and that's your first impressions, it gives like a form of reputation, but reputation isn't necessarily what I'm describing right here. I think we are more inclined to believe things that match our first impressions because it gives like an anchoring point. And then that anchoring point allows us to further trust ourselves, and then that allows us to further judge information, but not from a very objective standpoint. I think if someone was a racist person, well, I don't know why I phrased it like that, but I think if someone was racist, it would be very hard for them to change opinions of them, because our racism is bad, of course. I think we all agree on that, but especially that's something bad, and if you anchor onto that, I think if that is the impression, it would be hard to change that, as we would be biased towards any future actions as being an extension of them being racist. So if they were to donate to charity, for example, I think we would still believe, like reasonably, I think a lot of people would still believe that they had like racist intentions of forms of sorts, because the original opinion was that, original impression was that they are racist. So I think I've just really complicatedly described how we tend to anchor onto pieces of information and how that affects our impressions. I don't think I'm good at describing things in a concise and short manner, but like I don't think I need to, because this is supposed to be about my thoughts. It's supposed to be some. I think I just want to rant about things sometimes because talking is fun. I think for most people, I think talking is fun. I think we as humans are objectively very social creatures. So I think we as humans are of course very social creatures. I think that's something that's very commonly agreed upon. Even if we are extremely introverted, I think we still would talk to people. I think we still rely on people. I think we still try to interact with people, or at least we benefit off of the fact that other people exist so often. I think humans are a crucial part of humans. Humans are a crucial part of the fact that we are people, I think. I'm not mining properly. And I would love to talk about deeper parts of psychology that are maybe more controversial, like my personal theories on like how attraction works, or like sociological examples of certain other things. But I was talking about how people work, and I was writing about how people work, and I don't know what I think about how people work. But we are social creatures. I don't know what I was trying to go about that, but something more calm, I think, that I was thinking about recently was how crucial basic logic is, despite the fact that it sometimes appears less than like logical, or in other words, like common sense. I think we fail to realize how advanced or like developed, or like how complicated common sense is, because common sense is common. Common sense is subjective. Common sense is supposed to be common. If common sense were not common, then it wouldn't be common sense. I think that's something that people say. I think that's a remark I hear people say very often. Not that often, but often enough. That common sense is not very common. But if common sense were not common, then it would no longer be common sense. It contradicts itself. And that it doesn't work that way, I don't think. I don't feel. But I think common sense is of course subjective, like pretty much everything in life. But for example, I heard a remark on how philosophers of the past sound like make really simple things complicated. And I don't think I said that right. But essentially, to simplify it down so I can skip the whole explanation part. Essentially, I think that deriving like a complicated set of logic from simple things, or not necessarily complicated, but a set direction of logic from something that seems so simple. Like, why do cars move? Is it because of the windows in the car? Probably not. Houses have windows. They usually don't move. So it's probably not the windows that make a car move. And I think that's logical. That's something that sounds overtly obvious, but it is a crucial part of how we develop common sense and how logic works, I think. And I've barely played Minecraft, but I think crucial logic should not be, crucial logic. I think simple logic is crucial and should not be overlooked, and it's extremely important to acknowledge that fact that our common sense kind of develops off of intrinsic and impulsive like deductions that are similar to that. I think I've talked about enough for one day. I should sleep, probably. And I think I want to talk about some more, how would I phrase this? I think I want to talk about some deeper topics, maybe a bit of politics. I know politics is controversial, but I would like to talk about like political theory, lesser so than like real world politics, where people fight each other and burn each other and slice each other's throats or whatever. I would love to talk about some. I think we are too segregated by what we believe other people's opinions should be, because we are all subjective. I think it's difficult to define what would objectively be best, because we all have a high emotional like reaction to everything. Like, we talk about how people don't have empathy, but at the same time, you probably wouldn't also have empathy for like certain types of bad people. And it doesn't really matter that they're bad. It just matters that like the objective outcome is the same, no matter the fact that there are subjective like reasonings we put in. I think I'm not gonna go ranting down that today, but I think my voice isn't doing well either. But I hope I would love to be more entertaining to some extent. Not necessarily entertaining, but more. I would love to be able to, like I said in the beginning, I would love to be able to really better process my thoughts into like a verbal communicative form, or like a textual form, or like some other form where I can actually make use of the thoughts I have. And yeah, I'm probably gonna. What's my plans for this Minecraft world, honestly? I don't know. I'm almost at 100 days. I haven't really done anything. I don't know. I don't know that much. I don't really know anything, honestly, I don't think. And good night, I think. And Happy New Year, if you're watching this early.